Well, hi, one and all. It's Got That Funk here, and another installment in my ongoing conversation with the Reprieve. Um, Thank you very much for all the compliments. I do appreciate it, man. And I'm gonna sort of skip things and go a little bit out of order. When you mentioned at the beginning of your first video that I might be a good role model or representative for atheists. No, thanks. I don't want that job. Not only do I not want it, I don't think it can ever exist for anybody. And more to the point, um, even if it could, I would be a very poor representative of atheists or atheism. I am far less rational than most atheists that you'll meet. So there you go. I worry that we might accidentally be wandering a little bit far off topic with the way the videos have been going, and I have to also say I'm enjoying the conversation very much, and you're really lucky that I like you so much because there's actual, if someone was going to pwn you, man, I mean, there's gold all over these two videos, you know. But of course, that's not the way I want to take this because that's not what we're doing. You mentioned that you did accept the idea of infinite punishment for finite crimes seems to you unfair. Is it therefore all right with you if I infer from that if you were God, you wouldn't send people to hell as currently imagined? Um, because when you're talking about your hypothetical hells there and your hypothetical heavens and what it may or may not be like, I mean, well, that all presupposes that it exists in the first place, which of course I can't accept. I'm happy to talk about these things in the abstract, but I can't talk about them in the literal. Anyway, also, in response to my question about whether or not we have free will in heaven, I did presuppose, you're quite right to point out that my assumption that there wouldn't be free will in heaven was a presupposition. But it stands to reason that if you can't circumvent God, that in heaven, in what sense would heaven be different than earth if, if you can't circumvent God's will? I mean, if you could circumvent God's will, what's different about heaven? No death, no disease, fine, okay, but what else? Is that it? Um, well, you know, uh, that's a bit vague. Later on, I can't remember which video it was, but you did mention, I think towards the end of the first video, that the Bible was written deliberately vaguely. And you acknowledge that you're probably going to take a bit of crap for that. And I haven't really looked through the comment section because I wanted to keep my response natural to myself without polluting it with other people's opinions. Um, but I can imagine you might have taken a bit of heat for that. I don't really know. Um, anyway, the intentional vagueness issue. Yes, I agree the Bible is intentionally vague, but not for the reasons I think you put forth. It's intentionally vague so that it can be taken in a number of different ways and used in any number of different ways by people to control or manipulate others. Just my opinion. Um, right. Later on in the first video, you mentioned that the idea of hell, of course, and eternal damnation is awfully, really very scary. And you don't blame me or anybody else for thinking that it seems a bit unfair that, of all the choices that you could make to do good things, if you don't make one particular choice, all the other good choices you make don't matter. And yet, you can make loads and loads of bad choices, but make the one good choice and be allowed into heaven to party with all the nice people. Well, that's so profoundly unfair that, in my opinion, if belief in God rests on that one foundation, that's a good reason to reject it. The existence of the realm of hell is another good reason to reject it out of hand. Um, any God that would create a realm of torture, no matter how benign you want to try to make hell sound, eternity being punished on whatever level is torture. And the bottom line is that is completely incompatible with an omniscient, omnibenevolent entity. It can't be reconciled. You know, if you mention about when you're talking about the free will issue, and you say how could Lucifer leave? Well, if you want to fit the dogma into that, the excuse of dogma is that God made Lucifer, gave him free will so that Lucifer could tempt man. It's all part of the plan, dude. It's all part of the plan. I see Lucifer in a different way. I tend to see things like God and the devil and other things in terms of archetypes that act on our psychology. Um, and it's very handy in terms of scripture and dogma to have a character like the devil, because that way you can push all the evil that happens in people's lives and in the world off of God's shoulders and onto some exterior entity. And therefore, God can remain free from blame for the evil that permeates the world, or what we perceive as evil anyway. So that's my opinion. Right. One of the funniest things in your video, and like I say, I'm really, really glad this isn't, a ponage match going on here. But your idea about an afterlife rehab program was really, really, really funny. Now, I know that you're going to say that I'm wrong about this, but isn't that the whole deal with Christianity? I mean, you said that, after you die, you have to believe that an omnibenevolent God would give you some chance. Say if you were, you know, wanted to love God, it would give you a chance after you died to say, hey, okay, I get it now. I'll have that Jesus ticket after all, or whatever. I guess, is that what you're saying? Well, I suppose, you could argue that if you get there and Jesus is at the checkout stand saying, do you want in or not, maybe you would change your mind pretty quick. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be like that, because I don't believe in an afterlife. I don't believe in uh, anything remotely close to that. So, um, but this thing you were saying later on in your second video, I'm skipping around, but I'm trying to keep this all in one video. In your second video, you mentioned that I seem to you to be a spiritual guy and that I believe in the transcendent and so forth. And, you're not incorrect, not by a long way. This is a good reason why I wouldn't be a fair representative of the majority of atheists, even the ones I know on YouTube. Um, Now, I'm not saying all atheists reject any notion of spirituality. In fact, far from it. But the whole transcendent thing, is something that a lot of people have a difficult time getting on board with. And perhaps, we can discuss that further. But the thing is, I don't normally talk about my spiritual beliefs unless people ask me direct questions, specifically because I think these things are better kept to oneself. In my opinion, my beliefs are nuts. I wouldn't expect anybody to take them seriously. Why would I? They're completely personal to me based on my own personal experiences. Why I would expect that to matter to anybody is beyond me. But if you still want to know, we can discuss that further sometime, I suppose. That's fine with me. I don't mind talking about it. I just don't see the point. I'm not out to convince anybody of anything. So yeah. Anyway, right. I think I've pretty much covered everything in the video that you addressed. Oh, no, couple more things, right? I gotta switch my position around here. Right, sorry about that. Anyway, right, okay, so I wanted to say that I appreciate the fact, I've met plenty of Christian people, missionaries, and others who genuinely think they're doing people a favor by helping keep them out of hell, and they want to bring them to the light. And in your second video, bless you, I can sort of see that you're trying your best not to offend me by trying to save me, but in an oblique way, sort of trying to say, hey, Paul, come into the light. Well, in your case, I will choose not to be offended because I know it comes from a good place. But normally, I would be offended if somebody tries to save me. It implies a couple of things. It implies that you don't take my beliefs seriously. It implies that you assume that I haven't done any of the investigating for myself. Not only have I been a Christian for a few years in my life, I had certain experiences which led me away from that, and then I did a lot of spiritual wandering. I've read just for the sake of, I didn't want to reject beliefs without checking into them, so I've read lots of the Book of Mormon, bunch of crap, Kama Sutra, pretty cool, Upanishads, it's full of good stuff actually, really nice. Bhagavad Gita, I read this every year. Bunch of shit. Interesting stuff, worthy of a look, nothing very, mind-shatteringly moving. At least not for me. This is always good fun. And If you want a jolly good laugh, go that direction. And this is my favorite religious scripture. I read this at least once a year. This one is must reading for anybody who uh, wants to get an idea, about really big concepts, man. Anyway, no, I digress. No, seriously, it's my favorite scripture. I love it. Anyway, but I'm inconvertible. I can't be saved. I've drank the Kool-Aid. It left me thirsty. I tried all those other brands and they didn't work either. So yeah, I'm inconvertible. I've been there. I've done that. I've even got the T-shirt. That's it for me. Peace, and may all your ups and downs be ups. I'm sure we'll talk again.